Okay, so I left my calculator at school, and that's okay because I have this Calculate 84 app that I've told y'all about. So I'm going to use it um, when graphing and stuff for the study guide. All right, so let's just jump in and get started. So number one, I'm going to graph these equations and fill in my table. So my starting point is going to be to find the axis of symmetry, which is the opposite of b over 2 times a. So the opposite of negative 2 is 2 over 2 times a, which is 1. So that equals 1. So my axis of symmetry is 1. I'm going to put that in the middle of my table, and that means that x is 1 is where it's going to divide the parabola in half. All right, so before I graph this, well, let's just go here and see how it looks. We have x squared minus 2x minus 5 and graph. Okay, so I don't know. Hang on, let me turn my brightness down. Maybe that'll, there we go. Okay, so then I'm going to do second table. And if I go to positive 1, there's a negative 6 there. And then 2, negative 5, negative 1, negative 2, and negative 2, 3, which means that this had to be right here. That had to be 3, 3. All right, now I'm just going to graph those points. 1, negative 6, and negative 1, let's see, negative 1, negative 2, 2, negative 5. I've gone crazy. 1, negative 6. That's my vertex. Negative 1, negative 2. Oh, I know what it is. I skipped 0. That should be 0, negative 5, and negative 1, negative 2, which means that's going to be 3, negative 2. Oh, that would have messed me up. All right, 0, 0, negative 5, 2, negative 5, and 3, negative 2. Okay, so there we go. And that's my parabola. I didn't really touch that point real well, but that's okay. There. All right, my axis of symmetry is 1. My vertex is 1, negative 6. My domain is always going to be that, negative infinity to positive infinity. And my range is the lowest point, negative 6, up to infinity. All right, number 2, I'm going to start out the same way with my opposite of b over 2 times a, and that's going to be negative 10 over 2 times negative 1 is 5. So my axis of symmetry is going to be 5. I'm going to put that right in the middle. Okay, if you, let's say this negative b over 2 times a confuses you. Well, if you just put the equation in, negative x squared plus 10x minus 28, and you go to your table, where you see a repeat right here, 5, negative 3, and then it repeats on both sides, that is going to be your vertex. So that's 5, negative 3, 4, negative 4, 6, negative 4, 7, negative 7. So then I know that that is going to be 3, negative 7. All right, so I'm just going to plot those points. I'm going to go to my vertex right there. That line's not very dark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 3. And then I have 4, negative 4, 6, negative 4, 3, it's negative 2, negative 4. Sorry, guys, it's been a long day, right? 3, negative 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there. And I knew that this one was going to go down because I had a negative in the front. Okay, so my vertex is 5, negative 3. And my domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. And my range is the lowest point, it goes forever, negative infinity to negative 3. Okay. All right, number 3, 2x squared plus 4x. So the opposite of b would be negative 4 over 2 times a. That's b, that's a. The opposite of b is negative 4 over 2 times 2. Negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. So that's my axis of symmetry. X equals negative 1, which goes in the middle of my table. All right, I can put this equation in and do y equals 2x squared plus 4x and go to my table. But also, it's just plugging in negative 1 right there. So that's going to be negative 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And then 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And 2 plus negative 4 is negative 2. So if I plug negative 1 in, that's another way to get that other number for my vertex. All right, and if I go to my table, I'm going to scroll to negative 1. And it's negative 1, negative 2. So then on either side, you notice it repeats with the y. That's 0, 0, negative 2, 0, negative 3, 6, and 1, 6. Okay, so negative 1, negative 2, 0, 0, negative 2, 0, 1, 6, and negative 3, 6. You see, that one's a little bit skinnier. That's because it had that number 2 in the front. Remember, that makes it transform and it's skinnier. Right, my vertex is negative 1, negative 2. My domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. And my range, the lowest point is negative 2, and it goes up to infinity. All right, number 4, notice there's not a b term because it's negative x squared, and then there's nothing there for that has just a plain old x. Remember, the standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So you don't have a b. So if you do the opposite of b, you're just going to have 0 over 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Well, 0 over anything is 0. So your axis of symmetry is 0. If you do not have a b term, your axis of symmetry is going to be 0. When there's not a b, the axis of symmetry is going to be 0. All right, that's going to always be. All right, and then if I just plug 0 in right here, 0 squared is 0, and 0 plus 7 is 7. So then I know my vertex is going to be 0, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you'll remember when we did transformations, if you have a plus 7 on the end, that shifts it up 7. So that made your vertex move up 7. All right, now let's type in the equation. We've got negative x squared plus 7, and go to the table. And so 0, 7, and then I've got 1, 6. I've got negative 1, 6, 2, 3, which means up here is going to be negative 2, 3. Negative 2, 3. Okay, so I go to 0, 7, got that. Okay, negative 1, 6, 1, 6, negative 2, 3, and 2, 3. All right, there we go. My domain is negative infinity to positive infinity, and my range the lowest point is negative infinity, and the highest point is right there, which is 7. Okay? All right, now number 5 is in vertex form instead of standard form. Vertex form, remember, is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And hk is going to be your vertex. So I know that the vertex is going to be the opposite right there of that number, which is -3. And then whatever that number is exactly. So my vertex, if it's h and k is the vertex, it's just -3, -8. Okay, now if you, let's say, forget that on the test, if you type in the equation, you've got y equals parentheses x plus 3 squared, okay, minus 8, and then you graph it, you can look and see it's -3 down right there, it would be 8. You can zoom in, well, hope I didn't mess my thing up there, my window. But you can zoom in and see it, or you can go to your table. And if you go to -3, you see it repeats on either side of -3. So your vertex is -3, and then this is -2, 7, -1. Wait a minute, that's -7, -4, -4, -7, and -5, -4. Okay, so we have -3, -3, 8, -2, -7, -4, -7, -1, -4, and -5, -4. So my axis of symmetry, remember that's always the x of your vertex. -8 is the vertex, domain. And the reason your domain is always negative infinity to positive infinity is because it's constantly, like, it's getting wider forever. So if it gets wider forever, it's going left and right forever in both directions. All right, your range, your lowest point is -8, and this goes up to positive infinity. Okay. All right, so then this one, I know from my formula, my a times x minus h squared plus k, my vertex is going to be hk. Well, there's not a k, so that's 0. So the opposite of -1 is 1, and then I have a 0. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1, and my vertex is 1, 0. All right, and then again, if you just want to put that in your calculator, you've got -3 parentheses x minus 1 squared. And you can graph it, okay? And so there is your vertex, which is across 1 and up and down 0. Or go to your table and go to 1, 0, and you can see it's repeating on both sides of that point. So 1, 0, 0, -3, -1, -12, and 2, -3, and 3, -12. Okay? So 1, 0, that's across 1, up and down 0, 0, -3, 2, -3, and then I'm not even going to worry about those two because my graph doesn't even go down to 12. That's good enough. All right, my domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. And then my range, the lowest point is down here at negative infinity because the arrows point down. And then it stops at 0. Okay. And remember too, with your transformations, like that just meant that it was going to go to the right one, and it flipped, and then it stretched by 3. So it went to the right one, flipped upside down because of the negative, and then it stretched by 3. Okay. All right, so then on the back, how many zeros are there? Well, we're going to graph each function and just look and see how many zeros there are. X squared plus 7x minus 15. Okay. Y equals negative x squared plus 7x minus 15. It doesn't cross the x-axis. So there aren't any zeros. I mean, it looked like that. Okay. All right, now let's try 3x squared minus 12x. 1, 2. 2 zeros. Because it went, and then it came down here somewhere, and then it came back up and it crossed again. So 2 zeros right there. This one has none. All right, and then this number 20, we have y equals, the heck? Y equals x squared minus 20x plus 100. All right, that one I can't really see right there. So I need to make my window go bigger. Let's go up to 25. Okay, now it looks like it touched it one time. So it has 1 0. Boom, it touched it and bounced off right there. And then that's your problem. Okay. All right, this next set of questions, you're going to find each zero by factoring. So you're going to factor the way we did in Unit 7. Then you're going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So x times x is x squared. Now what multiplies to give me 45? 1 times 45, 3 times 15, 5 times 9. It's going to be a negative 45 and add to positive 4. So if it multiplies to negative 45, that means that the signs are going to be different. And which of these pairs adds to 9? It's minus 5 plus 9. So negative 5, positive 9. And then I'm going to set that equal to 0, set that equal to 0, add 5 to both sides, x equals 5, x equals negative 9. Okay, you're going to have to show your work on this section. So I'm going to have to see that you can factor, because you could also, I know that you could put this in the calculator. This is a great way to check it. X squared plus 4x minus 45 and graph. And hang on, let's change our window back to, let's just make it 15 right there and negative 15. Okay. I mean, you can see where it crosses, or you can even go to your table and find where y is 0. Y is 0 at 5, and y is 0 at negative 9. So you can find your zeros using your calculator on your table. There's your 2 answers. But I need to know what, I need to see that you factored it. So you have to factor it and then find your zeros. I'm going to want you to show your work on that. All right, this one is, didn't run off good. 16x squared minus 10x equals 0. So my, take out my greatest common factor of 16 and 10, which is 2. And then they both have an x. So I divide that by 2x, and I get 8x. 16 divided by 2 is 8, and x to the second divided by x to the first is just x. Sorry for the, I don't know why it's having to do that focus thing there. All right, and then divide that by 2x, and I get negative 5. Now just set each of those equal to 0, and that would be 2x equals 0, 8x minus 5 equals 0, divide by 2, and x equals 0. Okay, to solve this, we're going to add 5, divide by 8, and x equals 5/8. So your two answers are 0 and 5/8. 0 and 5/8. I didn't write this one in that notation, but I mean, if you write down that on your test, or if you write that on your test, I'll take both answers. I mean, x equals 0, x equals 5/8, or in brackets, you can write 0 and 5/8. Actually, those are called braces. Weird. Okay, this one didn't run off good either. That's a 16, and that's 10x, and that's equal 0. Okay, so we're going to factor this like we did number 21. What multiplies to give me 16 and adds to give me 10, and that's going to be 2 times 8. So x plus 2, x plus 8. And then I'm going to set those equal to 0. I can just kind of do that in my head. I know if I do x plus 2 equals 0, I'm going to get -2. And if I subtract 8, I'm going to get -8. So that's my two zeros. All right, number 24, I put you a little hint over here on the side. You're going to first take out the greatest common factor and then factor it like normal. So take out your 2, because 2 is the greatest common factor, and that will give you x squared minus 12 divided by 2 is 6. 16 divided by 2 is 8. I forgot to put the equal 0 part on that one, so add that. All right, now I'm going to factor this. What multiplies to give me +8 and adds to give me -6? Well, 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 plus 4 is 6. Well, it had to be -6, so it had to be -2 and -4, because those multiply to give you +8 and add to give you -6. Now, what do you do with the 2? Well, you just bring that down. It doesn't really do anything. You just bring it down, and then you're going to set that equal to 0, and you'll get 2. You set that equal to 0, and you get 4. And you might go, well, what about the 2? Well, you don't do anything with the 2. So now if I wanted to check this just to show you, if you type in 2x squared minus 12x plus 8 and graph it, it is going to cross at +2 and +4. And if you go to your table, it's going to have zeros at, oh, you know why it didn't do it? Because this greatest common factor had to come out first. So what I need to put in is x squared minus 6x plus 8. So put in the formula after you factor out. 2, 0, and 4, 0 are going to be my zeros. All right, number 25 and 26, they factor as perfect squares. Remember, 9 times 9 is 81. So then this is going to factor to x plus 9, x minus 9. So then my two zeros are just -9 and +9. Okay, that's a perfect square because 2 times 2 is 4. And that's a perfect square because 3 times 3 is 9. So then this factors to 2x plus 3, 2x minus 3. And then when you set those equal to 0, 2x plus 3 equals 0, 2x minus 3 equals 0. You're going to subtract 3, and you get 2x equals -3, divide by 2, and x equals -3 over 2, or -1.5. And then add 3, and you get 2x equals 3, divide by 2, and you get x equals 3 over 2, positive, or positive 1.5. So that's your two zeros, -1.5 and positive 1.5, or -3/2 and positive 3/2. Okay, number 27, describe the transformations. All right, you're going to want to look back at your notes for those, but this negative means that it is going to flip, or you could say reflect. All right, and then the +6 on the end is going to make it move up 6. Okay, number 8, inside the parentheses, that's going to make it go left 4, and outside the parentheses, down 1. Okay, on number 9, the 2 is going to make it stretch by 2. And that's going to make it go right 5, because you do the opposite inside the parentheses, and then up 4. Okay, again, you'll want to look back at your notes to see all of those transformations. All right, number 10, it says for me to write the equation. So I'm going to take y equals x squared, that's your parent function, and I'm going to reflect it, translate it 2 to the left. That's all. So reflect it, it's negative. And then 2 to the left would mean it's going to be plus 2 squared inside the parentheses. Inside the parentheses is right and left. Outside of the parentheses is up and down. Okay, number 11 says if the graph of the function y equals x squared is vertically compressed by a factor of 1/4, so it's going to have a 1/4 in the front, then it's going to go translated 7 to the right. So that's going to be minus 7, 7 right, and 1 down. So compressed, right 7, down 1. All right, number 12 is just wanting you to sketch the graph and tell what the zeros are and factor it. Just to prove what you're doing here is just showing the zeros are the opposite of your factors. So I'm going to use my calculator and I'm just going to put this in x squared plus 8x plus 15 and graph it. Okay, I'm going to go to my table and go to my table and x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay. All right, what am I doing wrong? Oh, I know, I got to go to -4. I was like, what's going on? There we go. Okay, so -4, 1, right there is where my repeat is going to be. So -4, -1. And then -3, 0, and -5, 0. That's my zeros. So that's really all I have to graph is the vertex, -4, -1, and then my zeros are -5, 0, and -3, 0. So what are my zeros? -5 and -3. Factored form is going to be the opposite of those. So that's just going to be +5 plus 3, because 3 times 5 is 15 and 3 plus 5 is 8. All right, number 5 is y equals 5x squared plus 25. Okay, go to my table. And I know because it doesn't have a b that it's going to be 0, 0. It's just going to go up or down. So 0, 25. 0, 25 is going to be my vertex right there. I knew it had to be 0 because, so if I do 0, 25, okay, look, I made that one up and this doesn't go down to 25. So let's just count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. How about that? So that was my vertex. And then I've got to find where y is 0. What in the world? Oh, guess what? It's the only 0. 5, 0 is the only 0. No, that's not, wait a minute, that didn't make sense. Hang on. What's going on here? Well, let's factor it. Oh, y'all, take that one off. Okay, don't do that problem. I made that problem up, and what I should have done is put a minus. I meant to put a minus right there, and if I'd put a minus, it would have worked out. So let's just take that one off. I don't have a mistake like that on the test. Let's see. Let me just try it just because I'm a nerd. 5x squared minus 25. Okay. See, if we'd had minus 25 right there, we could have found our zeros. But they still would have been decimals. So that's just not a good problem. So take that one out. All right, number 14, x squared minus 4, that's a perfect square. 2 times 2 is 4. So x plus 2, x minus 2. So then I know my zeros are going to be negative 2 and positive 2 because that factors to x plus 2, x minus 2. But if I graph it, y equals x squared minus 4, and I go to my table, I'm going to be able to see that plus 2 minus 2. There's positive 2, 0. There's negative 2, 0. So 2, 0, negative 2, 0. Those are my zeros. And my vertex is, there's not a B, so my vertex is going to be 0, down 4. 0, negative 4. Okay? All right, so last problem, word problem. A soccer ball is kicked from the ground with an initial upward velocity of 90 feet per second. The equation, here's my equation, gives the height of the ball after t seconds. Find the maximum height. All right, so the first thing I want to do is find the axis of symmetry in the vertex. So the opposite of 90 is negative 90 over 2 times negative 16. All right, I'm going to do hang on, alpha y equals, okay, negative 90 over 2 times negative 16 is, are you kidding me right now? Okay, well, guess what? That's ridiculous. So, on the test, there is not going to be a decimal, but we're going to just go with it. 2.8125, 2.8125. Okay, well, what the heck? Are you serious? All right, well, normally that's going to be a whole number and we can just go to our table. But since it's not, what I'm going to do is just plug in that number, negative 16 times 2.8125 to the second power plus 90 times 2.8125, or that fraction 45/16. So let's go back to here and let's just type that in. Negative 6, hang on. Negative 16 times 2.8125 to the second power plus 90 times 2.8125. Enter. Are you serious? That's crazy. But that's going to be your maximum height, 126. Okay, again, you will not get decimal numbers on the test. I've worked the test and it is not, it's going to be whole numbers. So we would just say the maximum height would be, on this problem, I would say about 126, or actually if you rounded it up to 127 feet. Okay. I mean, if this was about 2.8, we could if we just went to our table and looked at hang on, we didn't even put the equation in. It was negative y equals negative 16x squared plus 90x. And second table. All right, I'm gonna go to 3. And see right there at 3 was about 2.8 and the height was 126.5, so that would be 126. Okay, so we could say let's round that to 3, and then the vertex would be 3 comma 126. So the height would be about 126 or 127. Again, you will not have decimals there. All right, number 16, how many seconds will it take for the ball to reach the ground? So you kick the ball off and then it goes flying, kind of like our Angry Bird. Where is it going to land? So really all I've got to do is find where it hits 0. Where is it going to land? And it's going to land at 0 if I keep going. Oh, I know what it is, why it's not on here, because it's going to be a decimal again, which is crazy because it's not going to be a decimal when we when you take your test. So how would I get it then in this problem? Oh my gosh. So that would be the greatest common factor. If I factor this of 16 and 90 is going to be 2. So then that would give me negative 8. Are you kidding me right now? That's not even got a, oh yeah, it does have a t right there. So that would be negative 2t, and then that would give me 8t minus 45. So then that means that it crosses at 0, which that's the starting point. And then it launches and it's going to cross at 8t minus 45 equals 0. Add 45 and divide by 8, and that's going to give me 45 over 8, which is 45 divided by 8 is 5.625. So it's going to fall somewhere. How many seconds? It's going to take between 5.6 seconds. So 5.6. All right, again, on your test, it is going to come out to be nice little lovely whole numbers. You'll be able to just look at your table and you'll be able to see on your table, just go to where it crosses at 0. And so like this one, when we go to 5 seconds, in between 5 and 6 seconds, that's where it was going to touch 0. And if you notice, that's where it went from positive to negative. So it touched the 0 in between 5 and 6 seconds. But again, you won't have decimals, all right? The bonus is to write the equation in vertex form, okay? And I'm not going to do that with this problem because it has decimals. You just look, if you think about what we did on our Angry Birds, you're going to plug in the H and K. You're going to pick one of the zeros and plug in the X and Y and plug in, and that will find your A. And then when you find your A, you just go back and do Y equals A times X minus whatever your H is squared plus K. All right. And again, that's a bonus worth 3 points. So, anyway, all right. I'm sorry about the decimal thing on the work problem. If you'll just look back at your work problems that we did today in class, they came out to be whole numbers, and that will be what's going to happen on your test tomorrow. All right. So good luck, and I will see you guys tomorrow.